Hi guys, Samantha from Jessica Tutorials here. Today I'm going to show you a cute pendant that can be done with leaves of any kind, and it just turns out really nicely. So I've got, I'm not quite sure what this plant is called, but I just went out into the garden and found a leaf that I like. Any leaves will work. And I'm just going to pop that onto the clay. Some leaves that work really nicely are mint leaves. You can even go buy that from your grocery store. So it doesn't have to be from your garden. Just press it into the clay. And then I like to burnish that in just to make sure that it's well stuck in and is leaving a decent impression. Okay, so just go in and make sure that you burnish that. And you'll be able to see when that's burnished well. You'll also be able to feel that there's less of a raised texture. And you'll be able to see, if you're using deli paper like I am, you'll be able to see the pattern of the leaf much better. There we go. Okay, and now you can use mica powders, but what I'm going to be doing is using some colour shifting pastes. So I've got a nice green. I also have a gold. So keep in mind, you can use mica powders, you can use pastels, you could even use paints if you want. But I want to use these colour shifting paints. Also, just keep in mind that for 24 hours after this video is out, these are 20% off on my Etsy store, Jessica Design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those pastes, pop a little bit on my finger, and I'm going to burnish that on the clay. And they're really nice and smooth, they just glide over the clay. And you want to do this while you have the leaf still in there, because it will keep the pastes from getting into the impression, and you'll just end up with a very nice clear image afterwards. And you really don't need a lot of paste. I'm just dabbing it and getting a little on my finger and moving that around. And then I'm just working to blend them together. I'm going to have a little bit green. Okay, and if you're using paints, pastels, or mica powders, it will be the exact same process. Okay, there we go. Now I'm just going to bring over my cutter of choice because I want to see if I've covered enough area to cut out what I want. And I want to start adding a little more over here. So just continue adding like so. Okay, and I can see that it fits over there. So now I am going to actually, using a blade generally works the best for this. Just grab your stem like so. And lift that out of your clay like so. There we go. Now you're probably not going to be able to reuse that, so I will put that to the side. And I'll pick this up actually before I cut it out, because I want to show you the texture in there, because I'm not sure if the camera can pick that up otherwise. There, can you see the texture that has left? I do want to try and highlight that later on, but we will do that after this has been baked with some paint. Also, check out how nicely those colours shift. So now I'm just going to take a piece of baking paper or deli paper, and I am very gently going to run over the surface. Flip, and I'm just going to run over the surface on the back, mostly to just kind of smooth it out a little bit. Don't press too hard, because you will distort your texture. Then grab your cutter of choice and choose the spot that you think looks the nicest. Okay, so I've settled on that spot. Now bear in mind, if you cut this on a piece of paper of any kind and not on a tile like the ceramic one that I'm working on, it will stick in the cutter a little bit. And we got lucky that time, it didn't stick in the cutter, which is great, but sometimes it will lift up with the cutter. You can just gently press that out. Generally it's not stuck all that much at all. we go. And these gilders pastes or colour shifting pastes, you can mix them straight back into the clay and they'll barely affect the colour at all, so you don't need to worry about waste clay here. There we go. And so you can see there how that looks, and we will highlight that after it has been baked for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature. Okay, and here it is out of the oven. So we're going to want to give it a sand just to clean it up, but for the moment I'm first going to antique it. So I'm going to use some white paint, and this is just normal acrylic paint. And I'm only going to need a little bit of that. Okay. And now the trick to this is to grab your brush, grab some of that and wipe it off so you barely have any paint on there. And then run real quickly over your texture. And if it gets on the outside parts, that's perfectly fine as well, don't worry about that. Just make sure that you run off that paint, you don't want a lot of it. And that will just lightly highlight your texture. Okay, and I'll just continue doing that until I'm happy. Okay, there we go. Now I'm just going to go in and I'm going to just gently scrape off that paint. You can either scrape it off with a dry piece like I am here, or you can use a wet wipe and go in and gently do that as well. And this is why I said that I wanted to bake our piece first, because those gilder's pastes would have lifted up much more if we did this when it was raw. Now bear in mind that they still will lift up a little bit, so you want to be gentle when you're doing this. Okay, and there we go, and that will have highlighted the texture. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over some sandpaper where we'll sand the edges and the back, and then we're going to apply some resin which will really bring out the shine on this. Okay, then I've just got some 800 grit sandpaper. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to use that to clean up the edges. It really doesn't take much, that's all sanding that side needs. And then I'll do all the sides. Try to get the inside square as well, just because that will need a little bit of cleaning up as well. And do the back quickly, and then we can apply resin. Okay, and there we go. We've got the edges sanded and we've got the back sanded too. So now I am going to resin that. So here is the resin that I'm using, and this is available on my Etsy store. There is a link in the description below for that, also along with all of the other tools included in this tutorial. Also, all tools included in this tutorial are on sale at the moment for 24 hours after this tutorial goes public, at 20% off. Okay, so once you've applied your resin, you will go in with some or other. You can use a wooden skewer. I'm using a metal tool here, and I'm just going to spread that over the surface. Once I've spread it out evenly, pop that under a UV light for about 15 minutes and the resin will harden. Okay, and here we go now that the UV resin has set. So you can see that it gives it a really nice glassy shine, and you can see that those colour shifting pastes have really brightened in colour since we did that, along with the black. You don't necessarily have to use resin. If you don't want to, you can always just use a varnish, that will work just fine. So that's basically it for this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments below, and if you'd like to support this channel so that I can continue making videos on a weekly basis, please consider becoming either a patron or even joining the membership on this channel. It's got a link in the just below the video. Actually, it's just a join button, so please do consider having a look at that. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.